You ever see the work of letterers and calligraphers who just seem to intuitively know how to add 3D aspects or shading to their work? Yeah, that's never come naturally to me, and I'm betting that if you're watching this video, it doesn't come naturally to you either. Hey, I'm Becca with The Happy Ever Crafter, and in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to add 3D aspects to your lettering without too much overwhelm. All right, for this video, I'm just going to show you with some pretty basic tools. I have a piece of graph paper, a ruler, an eraser, a pencil, and Sharpie pens. So I have two different sizes of Sharpie pen here. You'll see why in a minute. You can just have one type of pen if you want. It doesn't have to be Sharpie. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be something you can write with. So what we're doing to make 3D aspects on our lettering and calligraphy is this process called perspective drawing. Now, I only know about this because I studied interior design in school and we had to do a lot of hand drafting. So this is where I learned it, but it applies really well to lettering. And once you know the technique, it's actually pretty simple. So to demonstrate the technique first, I'm just going to show you with a really simple square. And I feel like a lot of us have probably done this as kids, but I'm going to break it down for you anyway. So step one, draw a really simple square. And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw something called the vanishing point. So usually I like to draw it in the bottom right corner somewhere. So just draw a little point. And this is essentially where your shape is going to vanish to. So all I'm going to do now is take my ruler and my pencil, line up the vanishing point with each corner of this square, and draw a line. So now it looks like the square is vanishing towards that point. And now all you have to do is line up your ruler with the horizontal part, drag it down a little bit. Let's say 2 squares wide. Draw a line over, and then at that same spot where it meets the next line, you're going to copy this vertical line over to that and add a line. So if I were to do this now with my smaller Sharpie pen to show, I'm going to just trace these lines. Oops, you get the idea. I didn't trace that very well. Should have actually been here, but you get the idea. This part now is all of the 3D part you added, and it's going down towards that point. So it's really simple when we look at it on a square, but let's look at it on a letter. So let's say I wanted to draw the letter H with some 3D on it. So I'm just going to draw a really simple block letter H here. Okay, messy, but you get the idea. And then again, I'm going to draw my vanishing point in the bottom right somewhere, wherever you want it. You could also do it bottom left. You could do it directly underneath. I just find this is the easiest to demonstrate. Take your ruler and again, go to all of the points. Now you're going to do it on every single edge. But where this gets tricky now is that when I come to this one over here, I don't need it to go through my letter or through the next part because this is going to be the plane for that line, which will make more sense in a minute. But you don't need to draw it all the way through. You can if you want, it just can be a little bit more confusing. And then of course you don't need to bring it all the way over to these points because you wouldn't see any of that anyway. If I pulled this line through here, it'll just be masked by the rest of the letter. So now, same thing, take your ruler and we're gonna go, well, actually let's start with the vertical. So line up your ruler with this vertical line, drag it over the thickness you want to add to your letter. So let's go 2 squares this time and draw your vertical line. Now you're gonna go horizontal and you're gonna line it up with where that line met your angled lines. So right here, draw a horizontal line over. And sometimes depending on where your vanishing point is, these are really small and close together and it's hard to see a little bit, but you should be able to get the idea. So same thing here, keep this lined up with that original line you just drew and do the same thing for the one beside it. And then you're just going to connect that corner vertically here and bring it up. And you can see where it meets this line, and that one should go vertical again. So you're doing all horizontal and vertical lines here. Okay, and I'm going to show you this in a second with the Sharpie so you can see it better. But now this vertical line that you drew, you're going to line it up with up here as well to make the thickness for this part. And can erase these lines now, and you'll see it a little bit clearer. Or if I go over it with my Sharpie. Okay, I'm not good at doing this without a ruler apparently. So now you can see the thickness on that letter H. So these are two really, really basic examples of how perspective drawing works. But essentially all you need to know is that you're taking all of the edge points, drawing them back to a vanishing point, and then connecting by following the shape or the angle of the line you're trying to build off of. So in this case, it was all verticals and horizontals, but now what happens if we do a calligraphy word that has round edges? Okay, so I'm gonna write the word hello, really basic here in Sharpie. Okay, so first and most important thing to note here is that I don't have enough room on my page to draw a vanishing point that's gonna be far away enough. We could put it down here, it just will look a little bit strange to have it that close. So I'm just gonna toss another piece of paper under here and put in an arbitrary vanishing point a little farther away. So with this one, same thing, I'm gonna go down here in the bottom right. And now I'm gonna take my ruler and I'm gonna start doing the edges, except with rounded parts. So for example, on the top of this H here, like I'm not connecting to a really sharp point, I'm connecting to a rounded edge. So follow that down, okay? And do these lines sort of lightly so that you don't get super confused. So I like to do all the ones on the top edge and then I'll do all the ones on the bottom edge. All right, I'm not gonna need this bottom part, so I'm gonna move this away now. I've got my word hello with all of these lines. All right, I would suggest doing this part in pencil as well because you might make a couple mistakes here. So now we're going to do the same sort of process, except this time instead of vertical and horizontal lines, you're following whatever line you're trying to make 3D. So if we start on this piece of the H, for example, I want to use that shape of the line and just come down a little bit along my angled line here and mimic the shape of that part of the H that you're seeing. Now, of course, some of it is going to get hidden behind this piece. So I really only need that top part of the H, and it's mimicking this exact shape here. Okay, so you're going to do that everywhere, and you're going to make them all about that same width. So if we go here on this bottom part of the H, I'm going to now mimic this line about that far away, and you'll notice again it's getting hidden behind the E. All right, so do that same thing everywhere. Here we're going to follow this line of the E, and you'll see that I drew that line from this part of the H all the way through. So now this line is a little bit confusing here in the middle, so I'm going to erase that one. This is the line we want. So you're going to copy this part of the E and draw it all the way here. And same thing with this part of the E. You're going to copy it here. So you're going to do that exact same thing on all of these letters. So a lot of this is eyeballing, but you're eyeballing with these guidelines you have in place. And then once you get to the bottom edge, it's the same process, and you want to make sure that you're keeping the thicknesses all the same. All right. So now I've got a pretty good idea. I'm just going to darken everything with my Sharpie so that you can see it. Okay, and then you can erase all of your pencil marks and really clean this up. And there you go, you have your 3D letters. Now what looks weird about this is that you have some really sharp edges here and your letters are not sharp. So what I would do as a next advanced move while you're practicing this is try and round those edges. Not super aggressively, just a little bit, and not everywhere. Like here you have straight lines, so those would stay straight. But on these spots like this E here, you're going to round that in, and on the L's, rounding. So this will look a lot more natural. And same thing here. It's going to look like a real 3D on your letter. Okay, so it's hard to see that with my both of these things being done in marker. I can't erase that original word, but now you can see how you build a 3D. Or you can use this for shading. You can do the same aspect with shading. You can do the exact same technique and just fill it in with your shading, and it'll bring a 3D kind of composition to your word. So I really hope that helped. I hope that gave you a good explanation of how the shading in 3D actually works, and now you can take it and apply it to your work. I would love to know what you thought. Leave me a comment down below if you had any struggles with this or if anything was confusing. And if you need more help, I have another video about shading and I'll link to that one next. And I'll see you over there.